Hello everybody, this is Sarahscopic and you're watching Traffic Musings. Tell me in the comments below, what sounds do you hate? Like what specific sounds that when you hear them, you just want, you just hate it. Like just hate. Tell me in the comments below. So I'm on my way home from school actually this afternoon. Normally I wouldn't record Traffic Musings during this time because it doesn't give me tons of time, but I had to today. Gabby's gonna be quiet, so and I know my way back from here pretty well, so it should be fine. I told you guys in the last episode I'd probably do an episode about this, and it flared up so badly today that I had to talk about it. So for people who don't know, I have self-diagnosed myself, and I have to put this in quotation marks because this is usually a thing that gets self-diagnosed anyway, because there's not really a treatment for it. We don't know much about it. And I have what is called misophonia. Editor Chan can put it in pretty text with bells or something. Yep, there it is, misophonia. Now, most of you probably have no idea what the crap that is. And a lot of you are probably going to think it's fake. And I don't really blame you for thinking it's fake. I'm all about making sure that we get, correct diagnosis and also not pathologizing things that are just normal experiences. That's a huge issue of mine, especially in mental health. I don't like to pathologize those kinds of things. But I have to make an exception for this because misophonia, when I looked it up, it was one of those things of, oh my gosh, there's a name for this? Nobody told me. I wish I had known about this before. I am very fortunate that my case is very minor. But, so yeah. So what is it? Well, there's probably fancy terms for it. The best way to really describe it is, it's basically an utter hatred, and for no real reason, I should add, like a true irrational hatred, fear, spiking anxiety of certain sounds. Now, of course, everybody hates certain sounds. Like, that's nothing new. This is a different kind of reaction. This isn't, just hearing like nails on a chalkboard and being like, oh my gosh, stop. This is like hearing somebody chew their food and wanting to just smack them in the face for no reason. And but it can get more extreme than that. For people who have it really badly, they can't even be in the same room of certain noises. And in other cases, they almost like people who are just very normally, emotionally well regulated, don't really worry about these kinds of things, and are usually very kind of keep their cool. This stuff like triggers something that they can't even describe. And it's not like trauma related or anything like that, because that would be another thing. It's just, we don't really know why. There's just certain noises that just piss you off, but for no real reason, or just you get so angry, or just, it can get really bad. For me, it's very minor. In some cases, I am thankfully able to kind of overcome it and just ignore it, but there are certain times where when it gets triggered, like I can't even focus on what I'm doing, and I just get so hyped up. And the reason that this was really important for someone like me is because, I mentioned that, you can see in people who are normally pretty calm and collected people, all of a sudden, like, get irrationally angry over something, and it happens for me. I'm usually the kind of person that can kind of go with the flow on most things, certain people do things and really doesn't usually bother me much. I really don't have a short fuse, but when it comes to, like, misophonia, there are certain sounds that happen in life that just, like I said, I want to smack the person for no reason. I just need it to stop. My triggers are mainly nasal related, which I don't think is terribly abnormal. Some people have more abnormal kind of stuff. I mentioned the chopping, like chewing, and it's not just chewing for me. It has to be like, oh gosh, sorry, I can't even listen to myself do it. Like those kinds of noises really, I think a lot of people hate those noises, but they kind of get over and like, oh, that's annoying. For me, it's like I said, I kind of want to choke the person who's doing it. Just stop. I can't even focus on what I'm doing. It gets that bad. So it's stuff like that. So that's one, that's kind of a minor one, to be honest. The main one, the one that will always get me, and I had to hear it today, and I hate it, sniffling. I hate sniffling. Ugh! I I can't even describe to you my hatred for sniffling. And it's very, very, very specific. It's not, you know, blowing your nose, I can kind of, I don't think anyone likes the sound of someone blowing their nose. I certainly don't. But that's, you know, whatever. You're like, oh, grody. Like, that's like, oh, that's gross, you know. That's what that is to me. And when I mean sniffling, I mean like sniffling up through your nose. Like, you can hear, oh gosh. Like, I can't, I have friends who probably have hated me. I usually can keep it under control, but whenever I have a friend who's sick and they start like sniffling up, I get real mad. You will, if you've ever heard me say to you, just blow your nose, that's because you're igniting my misophonia at that moment, because it's making me like, I can't, like I said, like, this is like the kind of mood I get, like, everything just kind of gets tense, I can't focus, and it's bad. So yeah, if you've ever heard me say to you while you're sick, like, just please blow your nose or something like that, that's what's happening. So that one's a bad one. Things with the throat tend to also kind of get me, like guttural kind of stuff. So like long periods of like guttural, like that kind of noise. That one's a little hard for me to tell whether it's misophonia or just because I don't like any kind of the idea of choking. Like, the idea of choking or losing air is kind of a, like, it's, I think everyone has that fear. It is one of, but for me, it's not, it's like that, like 2% more than most people. Like, it really, it's hard for me to deal with. So I can't tell if it's like that, but I think it can ignite it more, because I still remember, I will say this, for people who were watching my Let's Play of Anna, you're probably wondering what happened, like why I stopped. I can tell you guys right now what happened. I actually did technically finish the game. Something happened with the audio, and there was no audio recorded. My mic was recorded, but no game audio was recorded. So, they were really bad. Like, I actually really wasn't that upset that the audio was bad, because they were the ending section was probably some of my worst Let's Play moments. And it wasn't great, but there was one moment in there that I didn't get to capture that I kind of wish I got to capture, because it was just a great moment from like a lesson point of view for all of you. So people who don't know, and I'll have Editor Chun can put like a link somewhere, probably at the end. But anyway, there'll be a link in probably the description of, like, you know, my Anna Let's Play. So for people who remember, there's a particular section of Anna that you can get to, which for people who don't know, it's a horror game. There's a section you can get where, because in that game, for those who don't know, random little, like, scary events can happen and, you know, kind of stop or whatever. And one that happens is you're passing by a room and there's all of a sudden just a bunch of blood everywhere, and someone who's just making this low, like guttural sound. And I don't know how this works, but the time of it, like how long it lasts, I don't know what they do to determine that, but I think it's if you, like, go close to the room, it ends more quickly, while if you're farther away, it doesn't end more quickly. And so whenever the problem is that for whatever reason, on their randomization counter in that game, that event, like, happened every single time I crossed that room, which statistically shouldn't happen, but something on the random counter just made it, like, always happened. And I usually kept my cool pretty well when it would happen. I'm like, oh wow, this should stop. This is getting annoying. Because the first time it happened, all of a sudden I was like, what is that? But the second and third time it kept happening, I was like, okay, like, you probably can't tell, but I'm like gritting my teeth, and it's because that I was activating my misophonia. After I got over the what the crap is this fear, it was activating my misophonia. And there's a part of the Let's Play you guys won't get to see where, so it's happening again. I'm in another room trying to search for something, and so I'm like, it'll go away. And I'm talking to you guys, I'm like, yeah, I don't like these sounds. It kind of activates the misophonia a little bit, but I'm explaining what I'm doing right now. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but that sound, like, went on probably about 20 seconds longer than normal, or maybe even just 10 seconds. It felt like a minute, but it was probably like 10 seconds longer than it usually did. And so during the middle of I'm kind of explaining this, all of a sudden I have a freak out moment where I'm just like, what the crap, stop. No, actually, that's what I do. I actually just go, stop it right now. Like, I got really mad, and I stop what I'm talking about, and I go to the room, and I'm like, you need to stop this. Like, I got really visibly upset. And when I got too close to the room, the noise stopped. And it was just really funny, because at that moment, like, I snapped. But that's what I mean. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, where normally I can usually keep my cool pretty well, and those kinds of things don't usually bother me. But that that was it. Like that, my willpower was cut off. And so that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's hard to explain for people who don't experience it. For people who experience it, like, it's kind of a, oh my gosh, there's actually a name for this. But for those who don't understand, it just seems like we're just kind of complaining for the sake of complaining. I know my brother thinks it's fake, and I don't really blame people for thinking it's a made-up thing. I don't know the science behind it. We don't know the science behind it. We just know that there's different levels for it. There is a great website that's got, like, support groups and stuff like that, and they have a really detailed outline explanation of, like, the different levels. It goes up, like, to level 10 or something. Level 10 is, like, the most... is like the worst, as in, like, you basically can't even really live and function in a city because any kind of trigger just sets you off. I think I was like at level 2. When I looked at it, I think I put myself as like level 2 or 3. So again, very, very minor comparatively, but oh, it's bad. I'm trying to think if there's any other triggers. The chomping can be one if it goes on for too long. The guttural for sure if it goes on for too long. The sniffling is like instantly, and that's what was happening during my class today. Was there were a couple people who were sick, and there was one girl who wouldn't stop sniffling, and I had to, like, I don't know, my coping mechanisms are very tactile. Like, I have to like play with my fingers or play with something or fidget with something, and so like I was just like tapping my fingers, and of course I'm probably causing somebody getting even more mad at me, because for me, like, taps and stuff don't bother me, but for some people they bother them a lot. So that wasn't great. But, you know, I try to keep it silent while like tapping my skin or something like that with my nails. So it wasn't fun. Coughing can sometimes be a trigger for me, but I don't think that's misophonia. I don't know. I just know, like, for certain people when they cough, like, I do get inordinately upset, but I found it's with specific people. For instance, when my mom starts coughing, it really makes me antsy. I think that's more because she has asthma, and so I don't like the idea of her coughing, because it makes me think like, oh gosh, she can't breathe. So I don't know if it's that, but I've had other people where they're coughing and it's like, ugh. But so I don't know if that's misophonia or just that I don't like coughing. I have sensitive ears. I think I've mentioned this in an episode, probably early episode. I have not very sensitive, thank God, but I have sensitive hearing, to the point that certain like high-pitched sounds really drive me nuts. And not in a misophonia, but in a way that high-pitched noises would drive anyone nuts. It used to be really bad. When I was in high school, like squeaks of doors, cars were really, really bad. It got to the point that like being outside, like waiting for my mom to drive up, could sometimes be unbearable, because especially new cars. Old cars weren't so bad, but new cars, I guess because they're just like just below kind of what normally people can hear really well, but I could hear it, so it was super high pitched, were really, 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 really bad. And so living in a city, like when I was in Philadelphia for the first semester, I wore earplugs everywhere. No joke. I wore earplugs. By the last like month and a half, I finally got used to it, because I tried to be like, well, I'll just get used to it. It'll be fine. It wasn't getting better. So I started wearing like earplugs when I was ever like leaving the city. And like I said, last month and a half, I thankfully finally was able to get over it and not have to deal with it. But then of course I moved back to the suburbs, and then anytime I go back to, anytime I go back to, you know, to the city, all of a sudden it happens all over again. That's thankfully starting to finally go away, because it's so irritating. Squeaks of chairs used to set me off. There's a really embarrassing moment I had in class once where I was asked to move to the front, and there was a certain chair I noticed during the beginning of the day that like squeaked horribly, and they asked me to like move the chair or something in front of the class, and it squeaked, and I almost screamed, because it was bad. Like, it was really, really bad, and it was awful because people thought I was doing it for attention, which I get, but it was frustrating because it wasn't. I wouldn't do it if it was for attention. It was embarrassing. So, you know, and I was in theater too, and so squeaks of the microphones would cause me to scream, and people were like, oh my gosh, stop overreacting. It's like, I'm so sorry, I can't, like, this is so bad, you know, and stuff like that. It was, so when I was younger, it was like in high school, it was really bad, the sensitive hearing. And oh gosh, thankfully, like I said, now it's not quite so bad. I've gotten finally more used to it, probably because I've been in Ann Arbor so much and stuff like that, and there's, you know, noises everywhere, so finally it doesn't bother me so much. But that's, like I said, that's not really misophonia, that's just pain. it's painful for me. I don't hear things that other people can't hear. Like, people hear them, but I can't ignore them as easily as other people. Which actually, I think, has to do more with the fact that I had, as you guys know, I had double ear infection when I was very little, and caused a lot of issues. Previous episode on that. And I think that may be why I never really got that time to figure out how to filter those kinds of noises, and so I couldn't. Now I can. It's not so bad. But yeah, so this was a very long episode. I apologize. But yeah, that's about my misophonia and sensitive hearing. It's not a superpower, trust me. It sucks. To be quite honest. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope something amazing happens to you. Without further ado, I hope to see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye!